The year was 1930. Key West, Florida shimmered under the relentless sun. It was here that Carl Tanzler Von Cosel, a radiologist at the Marine Hospital, encountered Elena Milagro de Hoyos. She was a vision of exotic beauty, her Cuban heritage evident in her dark eyes and raven hair. For Carl, it was love at first sight, an all-consuming infatuation that would forever alter the course of his life. Elena, however, was tragically ill, consumed by the ravages of tuberculosis. Carl, desperate to save her, poured all his medical knowledge and resources into her treatment. He showered her with gifts and declarations of love, his affections unwavering despite her deteriorating condition. Elena, for her part, seemed to tolerate his advances, perhaps touched by his devotion, but fate, it seemed, had other plans. Elena's health continued to decline, her once vibrant spirit slowly fading. Carl, helpless to stop the inevitable, watched in agony as the woman who had captured his heart slipped further away. His love, however, far from diminishing, only intensified, morphing into an obsession that defied the boundaries of life and death. Elena's battle with tuberculosis was a losing one. The disease had ravaged her body, leaving her frail and weak, a shadow of her former self. Despite Carl's tireless efforts, her frail body succumbed to the disease. He had tried everything, from conventional medicine to desperate remedies, but nothing could save her. She was only 21 years old, with her whole life ahead of her. Her dreams and aspirations were cut short, leaving a void that could never be filled. The weight of her death crashed over Carl, threatening to drown him in a sea of despair. He felt as if the world had lost its color, and every day was a struggle to keep going. He was inconsolable, his heart shattered into a million pieces. Friends and family tried to comfort him, but their words felt hollow and meaningless. He paid for her funeral, commissioning the construction of an elaborate mausoleum in the Key West cemetery. It was a grand gesture, a testament to his undying love for Elena. Night after night, Carl would visit Elena's grave, seeking solace in the cold embrace of marble. The cemetery became his sanctuary, a place where he could feel close to her. He would talk to her, pouring out his grief and longing. He spoke of their memories, their plans, and the life they could have had together. He brought her flowers, keeping her memory alive in the stillness of the graveyard. Each bloom was a symbol of his enduring love and devotion, but his grief soon morphed into something darker, a possessive obsession that refused to let go. He became consumed by the idea that he could somehow bring her back. It was during one of these nocturnal visits that Carl claimed to hear Elena's voice. The whisper was faint, but unmistakable, calling out to him from beyond the grave. It whispered to him from beyond the grave, pleading with him to take her away. The voice was both haunting and comforting, a connection to the woman he loved. Whether a genuine message from the afterlife or a figment of his grief-stricken mind, Carl clung to it as a beacon of hope. It gave him a sense of purpose, a reason to keep going. He became convinced that Elena wanted to be with him, even in death. The idea took root in his mind, growing stronger with each passing day. Driven by this newfound purpose, Carl hatched a macabre plan. He believed that their love could transcend death, that he could reunite with her in some way. He would exhume Elena's body, rescue her from the confines of her tomb. The thought of her lying cold and alone in the ground was unbearable to him. He believed he could preserve her, keep her with him always. He researched methods of preservation, convinced that he could succeed where others had failed. Fueled by a potent cocktail of love, grief, and delusion, Carl set about enacting his disturbing plan. His actions were driven by a desperate need to hold on to the woman he loved, no matter the cost. Under the cover of darkness, Carl returned to the cemetery, his steps cautious yet determined. His heart pounded with a mixture of fear and anticipation, each beat echoing in the stillness of the night. He had come prepared, his tools clanging softly against his trembling hands, a testament to his resolve. The night was heavy with humidity, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming jasmine, creating an almost suffocating atmosphere. With each clang of metal against stone, Carl chipped away at the barrier separating him from Elena, the love of his life. His mind raced, a maelstrom of conflicting emotions swirling within him. He was desecrating a grave, committing an act both illegal and morally reprehensible. Yet he felt no guilt, only a desperate yearning to be reunited with his lost love, Elena. After what felt like an eternity, the heavy stone slab yielded, revealing Elena's coffin, a sight that made his heart ache. Carl's heart ached as he gazed down at the wooden box, the finality of her resting place suddenly all too real, a stark reminder of his loss. With trembling hands, he pried open the coffin lid, holding his breath as a wave of decomposition washed over him, a grim reminder of the passage of time. But even the stench of decay couldn't diminish his resolve. He had come too far to turn back now. He had come to reclaim Elena, and nothing would deter him from his mission. He carefully lifted her remains, his heart pounding in his chest, each beat a reminder of his undying love. He placed her gently in a wagon he had brought with him, covering her with a sheet, a makeshift shroud for his beloved. As the wagon creaked its way out of the cemetery, Carl felt a strange sense of peace. He had Elena back, if only in body. He was taking her home to the place where they had shared so many memories, a place where he hoped to find solace. Section 4. A Macabre Preservation. Back in the solitude of his home, Carl began the gruesome task of preserving Elena's body. He possessed a rudimentary understanding of anatomy and embalming techniques, gleaned from his years working as a radiologist. But his knowledge was limited, his resources scarce. Undeterred, he improvised, driven by his unwavering obsession. He used wires and hangers to hold her skeletal frame together, replacing her decaying flesh with plaster of Paris and wax. He fitted her vacant eye sockets with glass eyes, their lifeless gaze staring into eternity. He adorned her with wigs made from her own hair, painstakingly collected from her hairbrush during her illness. He filled the empty cavity of her chest with rags and preservatives, desperate to halt the relentless march of decay. He sprayed her body with perfumes and disinfectants, masking the pungent odor of death that clung to her like a shroud. Night after night, Carl toiled away in his makeshift laboratory, his love for Elena fueling his macabre work. Section 5. 7 years in silent company. For 7 long years, Carl shared his life with the preserved corpse of Elena, a woman he loved beyond the grave. He dressed her in fine clothes, adorned her with jewelry, and even danced with her skeletal frame in the privacy of his home, as if she were still alive. He would talk to her, read to her, and even sleep beside her, his love for her transcending the boundaries of life and death. Every night, he whispered sweet nothings into the void, hoping she could somehow hear him. He treated her not as a corpse, but as his living bride, maintaining her appearance with meticulous care. He wrote letters to her, professing his undying love and devotion, each word a testament to his unwavering commitment. He composed music for her, filling their home with the sound of his melancholic melodies, each note a reflection of his sorrow and longing. He believed that one day, through some miracle of science, or perhaps even the supernatural, he could bring her back to life. His hope was a fragile thread, but it was enough to keep him going. His neighbors, unaware of the secret hidden within the walls of his home, regarded him as an eccentric recluse. They speculated endlessly about his peculiar habits. They whispered tales of strange lights and sounds emanating from his house at night, attributing them to the ramblings of a lonely old man. The rumors only fueled their curiosity, but Carl cared little for their whispers. He was indifferent to their judgments and focused solely on his love for Elena. He had Elena, and that was all that mattered. In his heart, she was still with him, and that was enough to sustain him through the years. Section 6. The Unveiling of a Secret. In 1940, Carl's macabre secret was finally revealed. Rumors of his strange behavior reached Elena's family, who, upon investigating, made a horrifying discovery. They found Elena's preserved body in Carl's home, a grotesque effigy of her former self. The news of Carl's necrophilia spread like wildfire through Key West, igniting a firestorm of shock and revulsion. The public was both horrified and fascinated by the tale of the lovesick radiologist who had exhumed and lived with the corpse of his beloved. Newspapers across the country splashed the story across their front pages, painting Carl as a depraved madman. Carl was arrested and charged with grave robbing. The trial that followed was a media sensation, with reporters and spectators from all over flocking to the courtroom. Carl, however, remained defiant, proclaiming his love for Elena and insisting that he had only done what she had asked of him. Section 7. Love or Madness. In the end, Carl was found not guilty by reason of insanity. He was committed to a mental institution where he lived out the remainder of his days. Elena's body, meanwhile, was returned to the Key West Cemetery, this time laid to rest in an unmarked grave to prevent further disturbance. Carl von Cosel's story continues to captivate and disturb, a stark reminder of the fine line between love and madness. Was he a tragic romantic, driven to extremes by the death of his beloved? Or was he a deranged necrophiliac, his actions a product of a mind consumed by delusion? The answer, perhaps, lies somewhere in the shadows, lost to the passage of time. But one thing is certain: Carl's macabre love story serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes the line between love and death is not as clear as we might think.